All right, are you guys ready to go right into the Doctor movie?
I'm ready.
Sorry.
Oh, I didn't even read Dan's predictions.
Our predictions are spot on.
Well,
we got more right than I thought.
Well, yeah, more right than you thought, but also very wrong at times.
Okay, fuck this. I'll just do this afterwards. I don't know why I'm wasting our time right now with that.
This is important. We need to get these cables tied.
What is the feature-length podcast? Anyone?
The feature-length podcast is a show where three idiots talk about film and entertainment.
Good answer.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey, are you talking to us?
Yeah. I'm talking to the voices in my head.
Like, I truly don't know. It felt like a fever dream. I swear to God, I could not.
It sounds so stupid hearing that.
If you're listening to this is a podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast, a podcast where we talk about movies and TV for a feature length of time.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the feature-length podcast. My name is Marco, and I'm joined today, as always, by Dan.
Hello.
And Carolina.
Hello.
So today, as you can tell by the title, we are talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, the new release from Disney. Who would have thought? Disney making movies, as per usual. But anyway, so typically if you are a listener of this channel or not, either way, you should know that we typically don't really do new releases, and partly that is because when we started this it was mid-pandemic and there were no such things as new releases to cover, but even since then we just don't really love to talk about new stuff that much unless it's something really, really big that all three of us are super excited for and we feel like we can talk about. So the only other one we've really done was The Batman, and this episode we're going to try to keep to a similar format, that being we're going to start off with a full non-spoiler section where we will each go around, give our general thoughts on the movie. We're not going to talk about the plot at all, nothing, just general thoughts. And then we'll go do our personalized recommendations for who we think may or may not like it, at which point we will have a very clearly defined spoiler section and get into the nitty-gritty, because there's lots of fun spoilery stuff to talk about in this movie. And we are going to end off by going through our pre-written predictions that we kind of finished it up right before we went to see the movie. And spoiler alert, most of them are wrong, but also there's a few nuggets in there that we got right, so that's very exciting.
I actually don't think I wrote a single thing that was correct.
Well, to be fair, one of your 4 points was just that you didn't have anything to write.
Yeah.
So technically that is like intrinsically correct.
True.
Only you can decide if that's correct.
Better. Yeah, no, that was right.
Yeah. And also I think your fourth prediction was generic enough that it's also kind of correct.
Yeah.
In a way.
I don't remember what the fourth
true.
one was.
We'll get into it.
We'll get there.
So Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we all saw this movie a few days ago, not that long ago, as of recording this. So I'm going to turn it over. Which of you guys would like to go first and give us your general thoughts?
All right, well, much like the Batman episode, Carolina saw it before us, so I think she should also start this one.
Sure.
That's what I was going to say. So I liked this movie. I'm very happy that going into it, I knew that Sam Raimi directed it and to expect something darker, because although I'm not entirely familiar with his previous works, other than obviously the Spider-Man trilogy that I had to watch for this podcast, but those weren't...
I had to.
Guys, I had to.
Yeah.
But those weren't super dark, other than, a few key scenes. I'm thinking specifically of the scene where oh god, you guys are gonna hate me. The guy with the hands was getting operated
Octopus?
on. Yeah. Thank you. So that was like probably the most horror looking scene, and that's kind of the only like quote unquote dark Sam Raimi that I knew personally. But then seeing reviews in advance of watching this film, I kind of was warned that this was him really giving into his dark filmmaking tendencies. And knowing that in advance, I loved it because I knew to expect it. I saw it with other people who did not really know to expect that kind of vibe, and there was a lot of confusion, but also general good thoughts. But yeah, I kind of loved it. I found it was almost campy in how horror driven it seemed to be at times, and even like some, obviously this isn't the no spoiler section, but even just some lines of dialogue were like hilariously dark. I don't even know how else to explain it. But I also just loved, I don't think this is a spoiler, but I loved how much Rachel McAdams was in it because I'm obsessed with her. Yeah, no, it was great. The performances were amazing. Lizzie Olsen frickin' killed it. I'm obsessed with her. Also, I'm obsessed with everyone apparently. But no, the performances in this were great. The style was very specific, but I think effective. And the story was also not at all what I expected. Maybe because I only like watched the trailer one time and didn't really pay attention to it. So one key plot point that I think was in the trailers, maybe we'll talk about it in the spoilers perhaps, I like totally went over my head. But yeah, it was good. It was a great time. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd for reference.
Nice.
Ooh, a number score.
Yeah.
We should all do that probably for consistency.
But can we all have a different scale so it makes no sense?
Yeah, I'm going to do out of 27.
Okay, I'll do out of 69.
Guys.
Nice, okay. Yeah. Am I next?
Yeah, you can
All
go
right.
next.
I thought this movie was hilarious.
Yeah.
This is probably, I think this might be Sam Raimi's best executed superhero movie.
Yeah, I agree.
I will say I liked it the best.
Yeah, unironically. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff to laugh about in the Spider-Man movies, and there's also a lot of stuff to laugh about in this movie, but I don't know why. For some reason, it works in this movie. This is a very Sam Raimi movie. So if you like that, you're going to like this movie, not to jump into recommendations too early, but also, like, if you're someone like me who isn't a Sam Raimi Spider-Man fan, other than like the memes and just like the culture around those movies, you'll probably still like this movie because it feels like a well-executed version of what he was trying to do with those movies. It's also, even aside from just like talking about Sam Raimi, Doctor Strange I feel like is at his best in this movie, character-wise, like character writing-wise. I liked this a lot better than his first movie, which is just sort of a more generic, just a kind of generic introduction to the character. It was fine, but this movie is a lot bolder in its story and its character writing as well. Wanda, same thing. You've already mentioned it, Carol, but she's excellent in this movie. She's like at her best here as well. Yeah, it's a hell of a ride. There's not much more I want to talk about without delving into spoilers, so I'll leave it there for now. But pretty much just to reiterate most of what Carolina said as well. Yeah.
A lot of my thoughts are going to end up coming out a bit more in the recommendation section because I have some things I want to flesh out in there. But I will say just off the bat that, I also love this movie. I had a great time with it.
Oh, I didn't give a number score.
Oh, give it
Sorry.
Sure.
I would give this probably like a 22 out of 27.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
Perfect. Yeah, I love this. I would give it probably a 59 out of 69 if I had to give it a number score.
Nice.
No,
Fair.
Everything you guys have said is true. This movie is an incredibly Sam Raimi movie. We had talked a little bit, Dan, after the movie about how it made me... We talked a lot about how this is like the redemption of a lot of... like Toby got redemption, Andrew got redemption,
This
and now...
is, phase 4 is the phase of redemption.
It's the phase of redemption, and I feel the same for Sam because I think he gets a really bad rap for those movies in terms of... Like we talked about in that episode, those movies fluctuate a lot in tone and how inconsistent they are, and it's unfortunate because he is a very tonally consistent director in terms of the weird shit that he likes to do, and you can tell those movies were kind of like, you can't do that weird shit, like you can do some weird shit but not all the time, and anytime those movies are at their best, it's when he's doing weird shit that's fun, campy, and not stupid. And this movie is all just like this entire movie is the Dr. Octopus scene.
Yeah.
But just like the whole movie.
Oh, yeah.
Is that level of like style and energy and kineticness, and I fucking loved it. And
You mean the guy with the arms?
yeah, the guy with the arms, who was also in a major motion picture like 2 months ago that you loved, and is one of your favorite MCU movies. Yeah, the guy with the arms.
How
Wait,
could
that
you
was also
forget
directed
Doc
by
Ock?
Sam Raimi, right?
No
Way Home?
Ironically,
No, it wasn't? Okay. I don't know why I thought it was. Never
It's
mind.
directed by a guy named John
He was
Watts.
one movie off from directing a movie with a bunch of characters that
that
he directed before.
that he directed, yeah. Yeah, no, I just had a great time with this. And, to go right into, I guess, a little bit recommendations, because that's sort of the next big thing I think worth talking about is this movie actually, I think when it first came out was a little bit mixed, and I think now has straight up gone to being like relatively considered pretty negative in the MCU online.
Really?
And yes, and I want to talk about that because I think I've had a lot of thoughts about this, okay? I think what it comes down to is this.
Marco, why do you not have a lot of thoughts?
I know, all I have are lots of
All
thoughts.
I have are negative.
Where's that from?
Joker.
Oh yeah, that's right. All I have are negative. Yeah. So here's the thing. Without getting into spoilers, so many of the negative reviews, right? Everything that they're like listing, I'm like, this is all true, but it's all why I love the movie. And with the exception of like, there's a couple things I want to touch on that I think are just straight up wrong and they've mischaracterized their criticisms, but I can't really touch on them in a non-spoiler way, so we'll get to that later. But for the most part, I would say like 99% of the really critical reviews I've seen that have been negative, I'm sort of like, everything you're saying is why I love this. And I think a lot of it has to do with where people are at with the MCU. And I was thinking about this, which is, there have really only been like 3 jumping on points for the MCU. In terms of, when I say jumping on, I mean like cultural impact of people going like, oh shit, maybe I should pay attention to this. So for people like myself, the very first movie, Iron Man, was that. Because as we're going to talk about in our next episode, all that existed before Iron Man was garbage. And so when Iron Man came out, I was like, holy fucking shit. And I really like started paying attention. Then Avengers 1 was like, I think the next cultural moment of people being like, Dark Knight trilogy is done. What is this? How are there like 20 superheroes in the same movie? Which there's only like 4, but so funny to look back on.
That was like considered a huge
It was a
crossover.
big deal, yeah.
I'll never get over the fact that Dark Knight trilogy ended before we even got, or like in the same year
That
as
we
the
got
Avengers. The
It's
first
crazy.
Avengers movie.
Yeah, that trilogy's so old. Hey, requisite Batman discussion
Yeah.
on the podcast. So,
Well, I already mentioned it.
oh yeah, perfect.
The Batman review. So did you, actually.
So did I, so fuck us.
It was supposed to be my turn.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
But
I
yeah,
dropped
so
the
I feel
ball.
like both those jumping on points are sort of like in phase 1, okay? And for those of us that jumped on then, we had years of the slow burn, very long play character arc, almost like TV episodic, where not necessarily a lot changes movie to movie, but we're really telling a character story and we're fleshing it out and we're building to this big thing. And then we got that big thing, which is Endgame, and I think for those of us that have been there that whole time, we are now in a place where we're kind of like, just blow it all up. Fuck it. Like, we literally, Dan and I leaving Endgame, were like, you could just stop making these movies now.
Yeah.
But they obviously won't, and so I think we're all sort of on the same page about, like, just do weird shit.
That's all I'm here for at this point.
Exactly. But what I find fascinating is that I think Avengers Infinity War is was the next jumping on point for people. That movie had such a big cultural impact of like, wait, this thing is coming to an end? What is it? And that was such a big, like, we're going to rewatch everything leading up to it, that I think there's this whole new group of people that their exposure to the MCU, like MCU fans on TikTok, for example, where it's like they're only fans of the last 3 years, and so I think they're expecting, okay, like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing that we're building towards? What's the next, like, slow burn arc that we're doing? And I think this movie is the antithesis of that, and that's why we all love it, but I think that's why so many people are having a problem with it. The best thing I can say, when I was trying to think about a recommendation, here's a litmus test. Do you like the Brendan Fraser Mummy movie? Because this movie...
First of all, who doesn't?
Well, some people don't, but like this
They're
movie,
wrong.
in its plot and in its tone, are basically just the Brendan Fraser Mummy movie, and I love that movie. And so, if you are prepared for a
Brendan Fraser Mummy movie,
if you're prepared for a simple narrative, very simple, we set some stuff up. Like, a lot of shit happens, but the actual character motivations are incredibly simple, and they're executed on, okay? Like, everyone gets their little thing, and they follow that thing through to the end, and then the change happens, and then, the movie, but, like, lots of weird, cool shit happens along the way. If that sounds like your jam, if you're in for a 90s adventure movie, that's what this is. This is a 90s adventure movie, and it's a camp horror 90s adventure movie. So, like, that's my recommendation to you. If you're looking for Civil War-esque stakes to the larger universe of the MCU, we're done. We've done that. We did it. we're doing something else now. So, I'm sorry, but this might not be for you if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I'll just jump off that because I would mostly say the same thing. I think it's ironic because this is the first movie that officially deals with the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
So it is ironic that, like, you just recommended it on the basis that if you're looking for something that doesn't build towards the larger movie universe, you'd probably like this a lot, which is true. Only because, unlike something like Civil War or Infinity War, I would say the stakes have never been higher, technically, but it's the character stakes,
Yes,
rather than the plot stakes that are not unimportant. Like, there's good character stuff in this movie, but it's not world building. It's not as world building from the character side of things as something like Civil War or Infinity War. It's fine. It's a very personal, Doctor Strange centric plot line, which is absolutely fine. Not only fine, like, it's
good.
Perfect. That's good. Yeah, it's more of a preference thing of like whether you want something like, to reference Civil War again. That was a movie that pitted like 12 different characters against each other and asked the question, like, where would each of these people fall on a certain topic? Like, this is nothing as diversive as that, which again is ironic because this movie is pretty diversive among Marvel fans. But if you are like us and you really appreciated Endgame as like the grand finale of this whole universe, and now you're on board for like the wildest, weird comic booky stuff that you can see just for like the hell of it, just to have fun, then I think you'll really enjoy this movie. If not, if you're looking for Phase 4 to be another Phase 1 where we start real slow and build towards another like really, really rock solid Thanos type Infinity Stone type saga, we haven't really gotten that yet, and I don't know if we will. So definitely don't expect that from the movie, but it is just a very exciting and well-paced time. It's also, I think, one of the shortest recent MCU movies. That it has that going for it too, and it's paced really well. So
how long was it?
It's only 2 hours.
Only, yeah.
Well, I mean,
I know. In comparison to what's coming out now, yes.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah, it did fly by though.
It is.
Yeah, so just to wrap this recommendation up, if you fit all that criteria, I think you'll definitely get something out of this.
I really, before you go, Carol, I just want to touch on something you said because it ties to a direct criticism of this movie that I think is just straight up wrong and mischaracterized, which is that this movie is like narratively bad. This movie is not narratively bad, it's just simple. Like, and I think that's the problem is, I think, like you said, like, you get the Civil War and it's Cap and Iron Man and like, you don't deserve that shield, my father made that shield, and like
building on years
of like lore and whereas this is just like literally in the first 10 minutes of this movie, like, Doctor Strange is having a conversation with someone, and they blatantly just, like, look at the camera and state the theme of the movie, and I was like, this is so wonderful. Isn't this great? There's a theme, he's gonna learn something, great. And then, like, there's another third character that also learns something, and it's paper thin, it is fucking just, it is literally the most generic learn something you could learn, and they learn it, and it's great. And the villain also, like, they just have their motivation, and they follow through on that, and then they learn something.
Yeah, actually, like, we can't say why yet because we haven't gotten to spoilers yet, but for a specific reason, the villain of this movie is one of the best villains in just like a standalone MCU movie that we've gotten in a very long time.
Yep, and it's based on not fucking 20 years of movies, it's based on basically like one other thing, and then this. And they did it, and they just they had a little arc, and they completed the little arc, and we don't need to like get half movies while we wait. And also, just the other thing is, like, there's always a balance in superhero movies between sort of style and substance, right? And I feel like because the early 2000s were so bad that
just those years were so bad
that once we kind of got Nolan and the start of the MCU, it very much was like really nailing the character stuff and letting the style fall to the wayside. Not that the style's bad, but it was an afterthought to the character work, which is totally fine. Those movies are incredible and we love those movies, but like,
well, even with the MCU, I mean, they are, one criticism that like is absolutely correct is that they very much have sacrificed style for the substance. Like, my favorite aspect of the overarching storyline of the MCU is the character stuff, but
100%.
As a result, they are all like, the look of most of the movies is pretty much identical. Their directors usually they don't really come through in the final product. So
that's why I didn't know the director of the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, of course, because it's just generic white guy John Watts, who's literally made nothing but an indie movie and now 3 Spider-Man movies for the MCU.
Well, I don't even mean like I can see his influence on the performances. It's more like I don't see the director's influence on like the camera work or the color palette. Those are all pretty much the same movie to movie, which sucks. But the one. Or not the one.
Well, it helps keep it cohesive, which I think is their ultimate goal.
At least it's cohesive.
Yes.
At the very least, it is consistent. So it's like you are watching the same universe across all these movies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But one other genuine good thing that has come from them is like their ability for like long form storytelling and actual characters that we care about. So yeah, there is a trade off for sure.
Totally,
you're talking about that with the Nolan movies, but especially with
especially within the MCU. And to your point, Carol. I think it's intentional because, they're trying to have that cohesion, which is fine and dandy, but that's why I'm kind of happy that now that it's like, we did that. Like, this to me, I said this to Dan, and I'll leave it here, and I'll turn it over to Carol, but this to me feels like you were, for however long, going to a comic book store, and you were picking up a comic every month, and the comic was called the MCU, and every month you picked it up, and there was, like, a different story, but it was written by the same writer and drawn by the same artist. And they were in charge of this comic, whatever this comic is, for however long. And then they finished their run, and now a different writer and artist just took over the book. And I think that's why this is so divisive, is because just like whenever that happens in comics, even though it's still the same story and there's still elements being carried over, it's different. And so people go, what the fuck is this? This isn't what I've been experiencing. And it's like, well, sucks to suck, man. This is what we're doing now, so get on board.
Well, I would even... Sorry, Carol.
No, go ahead.
You've been waiting to do your recommendation.
That's fine.
But one more thing.
I'll take a break.
Okay. That's a really good comparison. I would even actually go as far as to say it's more like just a new artist steps in. Because the story, now that I think about it, it's really not too... Compared to some of the more standalone MCU movies, like the Ant-Man movies or... the early Thor movies, like, it's not even too complex. It's not too complexity different from stuff like those. It feels pretty consistent to a lot of the other MCU movies, or even like Shang-Chi, which recently came out. Totally. It's more for me the art style, or I mean, when I say art style, I mean like the editing and camera work, which in a comic book equivalent would just be the artist. Yeah. So it really is just like they got a new person to draw the art, and it's like, what is this? This is... I'm not used to this. Like, this is a totally different thing. It's basically... I think it's mostly that, what we're seeing in the reviews and just, like, how traditional MCU fans are viewing this movie.
Mm-hmm. So now, for context, before I give my recommendations... as alluded to, I have been watching these films since, phase 1... But I've been definitely a more casual viewer. Like, there are handfuls of films that I have skipped and truly don't miss. Like, I haven't seen any Thor except for Ragnarok. And just, another handful of things that I've totally just missed out on and don't miss. I've never done a full watch through. I never will. So I am an OG, but like a casual OG fan.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So my recommendation is you'd probably like if you don't give a shit about Marvel, obviously you won't like this. But I will say, other than liking Marvel, you should probably like campy horror, like dumb stuff, like even like Friday the 13th vibes. Like, I feel like that is a good touchstone for some things that happen in this film. You should
at any point does someone punch someone's head off in this movie? Because
I wish we got pretty pretty close.
Yeah, I will say there were some things that felt like they had similar stakes and consequences.
Stakes.
Yeah. I don't know what else you would have to like for this. I think in general, if you like Marvel, you won't hate this film because, as I said, like, it did fly by. It never felt like a waste of time. It was funny. The performances were great. You should probably I guess liking WandaVision is probably too much because, like, the tones are so different for those two shows, so I don't even think that really has anything to do with one another. but I like how it plays on the story from that show, which obviously I won't get more into. But yeah, so in general, if you like Marvel, you like horror, you like Sam Raimi, you'll probably like it. So kind of similar recommendations, but I don't know, I could be wrong. So. You might watch it and like all those things and still hate it. Who knows?
I don't think so. I feel like most of the reviews I've seen have been pretty consistent about that. If you, like, again, honestly, just go watch dumb camp horror from the 90s. And, like, if you enjoy any of that, you will probably like this movie. And I actually, some criticisms have said it's like, well, the MCU has just gotten so big that you need to see everything. I disagree with that. I think this movie is actually incredibly standalone. Like, it's
you know what I will say? The one thing about having the multiverse idea now is, in one way, it kind of lowers the stakes, because you know that all of these characters exist in their different timelines, that in theory, like, anyone could die in this movie.
Yeah.
But then you know that now that we're exploring these different multiverses, it doesn't mean we'll never see them again. So in that way, I don't know. It just felt less like, oh my god, someone's gone forever vibes.
I agree, kind of, because that's always a general criticism, and this is why, by the way, like, comics need to reboot themselves, is because you always just get to a point where it's like, it's all bullshit, and you need to, like, consolidate the bullshit. But I think with this movie, and I mean, we'll get into it in spoilers, but there's a plot element of this that kind of fixed that problem for me a little bit, which we'll talk about. But yeah, there's something that's introduced in this movie that kind of made it so that way there still are consequences, regardless of the fact that there is a multiverse. And so it's not just like, if someone died, we could just go and grab another version of that character and then it'd be no problem. Like, no, like, there would be consequences to that, and that's kind of part of the plot of the movie, which is interesting. And even that, to me, was like a step beyond narratively in terms of what I was expecting. Like, when that happened, I was like, oh, you thought about this. Okay. You really didn't have to think about it. Like, you could have just kept doing wacky shit, but you actually did think about it. So thanks for that.
Well, I've never really understood that rationale anyway of, like, once you introduce a multiverse, there are no stakes for your characters, because those alternate reality versions of one character are all different people with a different soul, and, like, I would still not want my reality's character to die.
Agreed.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying no consequences. I'm just saying, like, personally, as, like, a fangirl of maybe, like, one certain character or actor, just knowing that I will be able to see them again, even if they are completely different, like, that's good enough for me. You know what I mean? Just not that, like, because, like, you know, like, Chris Evans's run as Captain America ended, and it's like, now we're never gonna see him again, you know, and, like, that kind of sucks. But yeah, so I'm just saying, like, in that way, it means they can kind of do anything, and it can be, you know, explained as another timeline, and so you'll be able to maybe see that person again. Just in that way. But obviously, like, there are still stakes, because, like, still in the universe we're exploring, obviously things change and people disappear or whatever. Like, yeah, there are still stakes, just less so if you're a fangirl of certain actors or whatever.
For the actor themselves, like, there's a chance that you'll be able to see them again, or it's just that the character will play a role in the plot even after they supposedly die. But it is different if you're separating, like, the presence of the character and, like, the actual their soul compared to, like, an alternate reality versions of them.
Totally.
Their experiences and their memories and stuff.
See, and that, I kind of had this problem a little bit with Endgame, was just because, not spoiler alert for Avengers Endgame, but like the fact that the Thanos that we fight in that movie is technically not our Thanos. Like, it is our Thanos, but it's our Thanos from a handful of years ago, which is still fine, because, like...
Well, they did kind of cover their tracks there, though, in this very specific instance, because they wrote in a way for him to relive all of the most significant memories from our Thanos. So he basically was in the end. And
that's why I'm more okay with that, because I was like, okay, you kind of made him. He's not just showing up like, so what happened? Like, now he knows. But still, but that's sort of the problem, again, of just, of when you're just pulling people from other places. Comics are worse. See, I feel like with a movie, right? Because you have actors that are acting and giving performances. Let's say there was a character in this movie that probably died, but then another version of that character shows up in the future, played by that actor. That character, because it's a performance, could be distinct enough to where you understand as a fan that we're not just doing a one-to-one replacement, that this is their own individual character. The problem in comics, though, is because you are responsible for the interpretation. They really do sometimes just be like, we swapped them out with this one, and like just do the legwork and make it make sense.
I hate that because
it sucks.
All of the, especially because all the characters around them pretend like it never happened. Like that's not the
Yes!
same person.
I know. I hate
not,
it.
That's not your friend. That's a stranger from a different universe.
This is a person you have never spoken to in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that.
That always annoys me.
It's way worse than comics, but yeah. All right. Do you guys have any other final non-spoiler thoughts before we get right into spoilers?
No, I want to get to the spoilers.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Me too. I will just say my final thought was that I described this person to someone who hasn't seen it as Marvel's first like cult classic movie. This is a movie that you're not gonna like unless you fucking love it. And like if you are in on that, if you're in on the joke and the energy of it, and this is for you, you will absolutely adore it, flaws and all. There are definitely flaws, but even the flaws, like we talked about, were enjoyable flaws because they were from Sam Raimi, and so it was fine. So this is Marvel's first cult classic. Go give it a watch if you dare.
If you dare. Spooky.
That's very Sam Raimi.
Spooky. All right.
Actually, wait.
Yes.
One more thing before we do this.
Okay.
I think in the end, it was probably actually a good call that Sam Raimi stepped in to direct this movie.
I agree.
Because while I was very excited to see a straight up horror-esque movie from the MCU, and like we always knew that was never gonna fly anyway, like that would never happen. But the fact that Scott Derrickson, director of the first Doctor Strange movie, eventually stepped down because Marvel didn't want to make his version of it, which is like apparently too risque or like scary, and then Sam Raimi stepped in. I do think it was for the best because what we got was something that tried to be scary kind of, but in the funniest way possible, which actually probably, while it was satisfying, also fits into the larger MCU better than
100%.
just like a random straight up horror movie. As much as I would have wanted that, it would have come out of nowhere.
Yep.
So I do think it was kind of a blessing in disguise. Not even in disguise. It was just a blessing.
It was a blessing. Like
to
it's
bring Sam Raimi on for this.
I don't know how you make, especially a character like Doctor Strange that's all about magic. Like you need to do camp horror for that. Like it would be so weird if there was like a movie like fucking Hereditary, but it's Doctor Strange. Like that would, I don't want that. Like yeah, camp horror, weird monsters, weird fucking magic fights and shit that are ultra violent. Like that's awesome, but. Yeah, like Scott Derrickson, they should have just let him like make.
They should have Moon Knight.
Let him make Moon Knight.
Say?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Yes.
Yeah.
I just before we get to spoilers, we'll get there. Very last thing. This movie is like in the news because like, oh, like I can't believe it was only rated PG-13. Like people are freaking out about that.
Really?
Just to be clear, this is a. Admittedly, like, you know how people say something's like a hard R, like it's very, very graphic or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, this is a hard PG-13. Like, yeah, there's violence and blood and stuff in it, but, like, it's PG-13. Like, I took my 15-year-old brother to see this. He was completely fine. He had a blast. I doubt anyone over the age of 13 would really have a problem, but if you're a parent listening to this for some reason, like... just do the legwork and go watch the movie and decide whether or not your kid would have a problem with it. Like, I don't know. Maybe, I'm sure there are kids that would. I think most people would probably be fine with it, though. So
Yeah, because the next thing up is 14A, and that's way too high.
That's way too high for this, yeah.
Also, one more thing before we get into the spoiler section. I will say if, for some reason, by the end of the movie you really have to pee, waiting for the second post-credits scene is a waste of time. Just go pee.
That's a hot
That's
take.
what I'll say.
We'll talk about that
Are you
later.
kidding?
I would disagree with that.
If
I
you
love the
desperately
second
need to pee, you're telling me it's worth it to sit through the
Yes.
credits just
Well,
to watch
no.
that second
wait.
scene?
After the first post-credit scene, just go pee and
True.
come back.
I mean, you can just...
The
yeah,
credits are
there's
like 10 minutes long. You have so much time to go pee and
Well,
come
if you
back.
have a full theater and everyone runs out to pee and there's a line, you might not
Everyone
make it.
at the same time has to pee.
Okay,
Hey, for
fair.
women,
That's
it's a
fair.
serious problem.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay,
So,
all I'm
just
saying
saying.
Watch
is
the post-credit
the
scene.
post-credit scene is still very...
Like, just look it up online if you're
Yeah,
gonna miss
that's
it. 'cause-
it's like fine, but I'm a little like we really sat through 10 minutes of credits for that. Like it's like fine.
I fucking loved it. But yeah, okay, that's fair. That's totally...
I liked
get
it better than the first post-credit scene.
I did too, actually.
Oh my gosh.
But that's because the first one, I was like, I don't know what the fuck is
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, I mean I don't either. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. All right, spoilers. Spoilers?
Starting
Yes,
now.
yes,
If you
John
haven't seen the movie,
motherfucking
leave.
Krasinski!
Okay.
Oh yeah, we're
Hell
starting
yeah! Dude.
I'm so happy you guys also made me watch the Fantastic Fours beforehand because I wouldn't have known who Reed Richards was
That
at
one-
all.
Yeah.
That one, it's appropriate to say, like, we made you watch them and
Yeah.
you didn't want to watch them because
Okay,
those are those movies.
I did not want to watch the Spider-Mans either, to be honest. I would have been fine dying without seeing them. I don't
Dying
care.
without seeing.
I don't care.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's a
sorry.
rite of
It's a
passage.
hot take.
I've
It's a
seen
rite
the
of
memes, that's enough.
Well, I mean, yeah.
You got to
then
see where they
basically-
come from, though.
The context is key to all of this.
Nah.
Anyway, yeah, John Krasinski's in this movie as Mr. Fantastic. We did it. We made it happen, the
It's
internet.
crazy.
That, I couldn't believe because
Me either.
like that was such a fan casting.
Yeah.
So the fact that they actually made it in.
Also, like,
Like,
look
we
at
hold a
him
lot of
getting that
power,
Marvel
man.
money now. Jesus.
Okay, we need to talk about the larger ramifications of this. So,
Yeah.
first of all, yeah, we'll just say I actually the big positive I have for this movie is that it wasn't overly multiversey. Like it was mostly a fun horror movie with spoilers, Scarlet Witch as the villain, which was
Yeah.
cool, great choice, and I'm sure we'll talk about that character stuff. But I like how the Illuminati part of the movie was just like in the middle. It was like we're doing the Illuminati thing. Here's all your cameos. They all fucking die,
Yeah.
and then we're just on with the rest of the movie.
And also, I got. Like, I didn't write this down as one of my predictions, but I predicted the Illuminati wrong in my head. I thought the Illuminati was going to take place in, like, this weird interdimensional area that it doesn't take place
You
within
did write
universe.
that down.
Oh, did I? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, either way. and I thought the Illuminati itself would be made up of characters from different universes. But it turns out the Illuminati it's only a thing in this one particular universe that Doctor Strange travels to.
Yeah.
So it is an interdimensional Illuminati, but not in the sense that I was thinking. And so, like, all this to say, even the presence of the Illuminati in this movie surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, it was cool. It's a really cool choice.
And
yeah.
the people on the Illuminati.
Yeah.
What a team.
Yeah,
Blackagar Boltagon.
that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Also, what a name. Yeah, okay, so there was a Captain America, which was,
Peggy.
like, yeah.
Captain Britain,
Yes.
technically.
Yes.
Okay, sure. And then there was a Captain Marvel, who was her
Yeah.
friend.
Yes.
And then John Krasinski.
Reed Richards.
Yeah.
And then
Blackagar
Stretched
Boltagon.
exactly once.
old bald man from X-Men.
Come on, you know his name.
Professor X,
Professor
Carol, come on. And not just any Professor X.
The old
Specifically,
one.
the 90s cartoon Professor X, because
Yes.
when he rolled up in his goddamn yellow hover chair,
Oh my
they played
God.
the 90s animated theme song, and Dan and I, in that moment, no one else
Sir
in the theater gave a
Patrick
shit.
Stewart.
Everyone.
Well, I only gave a shit because how specific of a prediction that was from you, and you got it right.
Dude,
That it wasn't, in fact, the X-Men movies Charles Xavier. Technically, it was.
But it was played by.
It was
But it's
played
played
by
by
him,
him.
but it was the animated show's version of him.
I was so happy.
I have a question, actually.
Okay.
In the movie, he wears a very distinct, like, black turtleneck outfit. Do you remember?
Yes,
Steve
when he's like
Jobs?
walking around
In the White
mindscape.
Matrix?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is, like, very much a Steve Jobs fit. Does he in the is that, like, his signature outfit or something?
I did not watch enough of the cartoon to know.
Okay. Because
Probably.
it was very specific. I
Yeah.
had to assume that it was like something he wore a lot in the cartoon.
It has to be. I know for sure his suit and hover chair were, yes. And also, once the theme song started playing, I was like, my
Yeah,
God, Danny
course.
Elfman, our hero, our Lord and Savior.
Danny Elfman
But
went off on this movie.
You went
Yeah.
off.
Well, Marco and I, when the end credits came up, we had just found out then that Danny Elfman scored
Yeah,
this movie. We
and
didn't
I was-
even realize that going in,
Hell yeah, Danny, the boy.
which makes sense because it's Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is this the
Um,
first time they've reunited since Spider-Man 3?
Maybe. I mean, what is the only thing Sam Raimi's done since then was that Wizard of Oz movie that nobody saw.
With
So-
James Franco.
With James Franco.
I saw that.
He might have done that.
Oh, you
actually.
saw
I
that?
saw that in theaters.
Is it good?
I don't remember, so probably not.
Okay, yeah, probably not.
I
mean,
don't
it's-
remember
it-
thinking it was great.
It looked bad.
There is a
Yeah.
chance Danny Elfman might have scored that actually. So,
Yeah,
but even that was a while ago.
long time ago. Like 10 years. But yeah, I mean, to see the Illuminati, that was...
I'm also grateful
So
you
nice.
guys told me about the Illuminati in advance, because I also had a friend who I was watching it with when they said the name of the group. She burst out laughing because she thought they made it up just for the purposes of this film, because obviously we only know the Illuminati as like, I don't know, the secret society of rich people that is probably fake.
The lizard people.
Yeah, I don't know. But I was like, no, it's like from the comics. I know that because, you know, I have people who told me, not because I actually know myself. But yeah, Classic. It was good. I knew that in advance.
There was a nice reveal too when they're talking and he's like, so like who's the group here? Is it the Avengers? Is it SHIELD? Whatever. And he's like, the Illuminati. And I was like, hell yeah, we're doing it. But also in that universe that they go to, Christine, his once and future love, works at the Baxter Building, which is where Reed Richards works. Which they said that first, and that's as soon as they said that, Dan and I were like, Baxter, Baxter Building, Reed Richards.
Yeah, so that building that we saw. That was like the Baxter Building. Then?
I guess that's their headquarters in that universe.
The Illuminati HQ.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean, considering Mr. Fantastic is on the team, that makes sense.
And he's John Krasinski.
Which,
let's talk about quickly, just since we're here, and then we can actually talk about like the rest of the movie, because this very much is like a little middle section.
Yeah, like a very little middle section.
Yeah. I do, you know, as far as I know, from just insiders on the internet and stuff, at this point, sort of post the movie, what's going to happen with the Fantastic Four movie is still totally up in the air at Marvel. And so I think this was like a litmus test.
Oh, are they making another one?
Like for Marvel in the MCU.
They've announced that,
And
I just feel like
John
they rebooted it so many times already.
Oh, they have.
I know.
They have, yeah. Which
and
we'll
the last one
was
so bad.
Next week, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
Dan and I
We're
forgot
doing a whole other episode, but
just how bad.
Yeah.
But like it's so funny because a week before like Doctor Strange came out, John Watts, who made the Spider-Man movies, he was attached to direct the Fantastic Four movie, okay? And a week before this movie came out, he got fired or he quit. Who knows? Creative differences. Someone left somehow. And
Kevin Feige left.
Kevin Feige left. And I texted our friend Rachel, and I was like, Rachel, do you think there's any chance that this means that maybe he was never actually directing the movie? Maybe this whole time, John Krasinski is going to star and direct, because he's a director in the Fantastic Four movie. And this was all a long con, and we're going to find out he was in Multiverse of Madness.
Because
and, like,
if they ever announced that he was directing
we
Fantastic
would know.
Four...
We would know. We'd be
Obviously,
like, okay.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility, I believe, technically. But nobody really knows for sure. There's also... I remember hearing that, like, there were some rumors that whatever Fantastic Four we see in this movie, because people weren't sure, that wouldn't be the MCU Fantastic Four, that they would recast and do something different. I don't know. It's all up in the air, but that would be really cool if he comes back to star and direct as Reed Richards.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I don't really like him as Reed Richards. I love him as a person, and I've liked him in everything else I've seen him in, but just like, he's like, I don't know, like too cool almost, and like too hot.
Is it because your memory is tainted by the
Miles
shitty and the other, what's his name from the other two movies?
I liked the guy from the first movie.
I like the guy from the first movie,
I think he's the perfect Reed Richards.
I like the entire cast of the first movie. I just think...
But, like, as their characters?
Yeah, they're just not given anything to do. But, like, I think...
He's a great Reed Richards.
I think he works.
I mean, maybe that's why I think that John Krasinski is the best Reed Richards so far. But like,
yeah, he's fine. I don't.
But then, like, who would be the cool guy, Human Torch, that's cooler than John Krasinski?
Well, there's different types of cool. Like, he's not like a hothead cool.
Yeah,
he's like a suave, classy.
But here's the problem, right? Is Reed Richards, from a characterization standpoint, is supposed to be a dick. Like, his whole thing in the Marvel universe and comics and stuff is that, like, he's a smart, cocky asshole, and, like, nobody fucking likes him. And I just can't see John Krasinski being unlikable.
Right?
Which, like, I mean, granted, he is a talented actor. He's a talented director. If they pull it off, they pull it off. I have no problem with that. But, yeah, like, to a certain extent, like Miles Teller was, again, from a casting perspective, not bad casting, because I fucking hate him and I want to punch him in the face. Yeah. And even the first guy, I think, does a decent enough job of, like, just kind of being self-absorbed and an asshole. And so he's just doing his Reed Richards thing. But, like, yeah, John, like, it was cool to see him in this.
He wasn't enough of an asshole for me.
That's fair. I mean, he's more just like a dork, like an idiot dork. Okay, fair. But, yeah, fair. But, like, yeah, I don't know, like... And also, I mean, to be fair, though, this is also supposed to be a universe where like pretty much everything ends up going right, and it's like a paradise universe. So the idea,
like we were talking about before, our version of John Krasinski, Mr. Fantastic, could behave completely differently.
Yeah,
because he's a
maybe
different
he is.
soul, right?
Maybe, yeah, exactly.
I think this is just more to test John Krasinski, like
willingness
in the costume,
Yeah.
in the role, like in the movie as Mr. Fantastic.
Sure.
Which I'm sure everyone wanted anyway, so I don't really know why they had to test it, but
I don't know. I know they did talk about wanting to do a more diverse Fantastic Four cast for the MCU version. So, like, I mean, that's still fine. You could have him be married to someone that's a person of color, and it doesn't, like it.
Hey, they
he
did it
himself,
in the 2015.
Yeah, to great effect. That was really powerful storytelling, the way that subplot worked out. But regardless of what happens, it's cool that we at least saw him in this. If he literally never comes back, at least we got this. At least we got this
canon.
scene. It's fine.
It's official.
In some universe, he is John Krasinski. That's cool.
Yep.
But even I don't know how they would recast without breaking the rules that they've set up, because they've established that every person in every reality looks the same.
Which is unfortunate, because what are they going to do about Professor X? Because there's not a chance in hell that Patrick Stewart is going to be alive to play Professor X.
They might bring in the younger one.
Oh, like
Do a time travel and multi-universe thing where they like bring in the rebooted ones as a multiverse and write those into the MCU.
All right, you sold me. Yeah, they could do that. They could do that. Fair.
Yeah, because I know who it is, and I'm also forgetting his name, but he's a very talented
great.
actor. James
I like him.
McAvoy.
James
James
McAvoy.
McAvoy.
There we go.
Hot take. I prefer McAvoy and Fassbender to Patrick Stewart and what's his name? Ian McKellen. Like, I think they are both fantastic, but like the scenes with McAvoy and Patrick Stewart in First Class are just like...
Yeah, I think I like them the same. I don't think I can choose a favorite, but I'm happy with how well they found two actors with
phenomenal.
Not only good chemistry, but matching chemistry to the older versions of their characters.
Exactly. Totally. I agree. Okay, let's talk about this actual movie now.
The plot, yeah.
Okay. Did we know that Miss Marvel was in it or no?
Like the...
You mean
what's her
America?
name?
Yeah, is she not Miss Marvel?
That's not Miss Marvel. Unfortunately,
thought
there's
it
another
was.
little girl. Yeah, no.
There's another little girl?
Yes.
Wow.
So many little
I
girls.
didn't see the trailer for
That's
Miss Marvel. My
is
bad.
that Kamala Khan?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yeah.
Oh,
Kamala
okay.
Khan.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that is a different
Anyway,
character.
so America, did we know she was in it?
Yes,
I
but
couldn't
nobody
remember if there was a
gives
little
shit.
girl in the trailer.
I didn't know who she was. I just saw her in
Yeah.
the trailer. But
America is a relatively new comics creation that exists, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but like because of diversity and trying to create more diverse characters and stuff like that, right? She obviously has gay parents, and I believe her herself in the comic is also maybe gay? Question mark? I don't know.
She had
She's
a
a
pride
relatively
pin
yeah.
on her jacket.
She's a relatively new character.
She's at least an ally.
Yes, and yeah, I mean, so they brought her into this. She's probably the weakest part of the movie for me, but I try not to rag on like little children actors because that's not very nice, and she is fine. But I just
I think it's fine considering she's like a tertiary character.
Exactly.
She's not even like a secondary.
But she's a
character.
tertiary character, but she's also like so important.
Well, she's plot important.
Yes, that's
she's
what I
a
mean.
MacGuffin. Yeah, she's literally just a thing in this movie, basically. So it doesn't.
Yeah,
matter
that's a
that
good way to
much.
put it.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing I do really like, something about her design was that like the way she opens multiversal portals is like a star, and I just like the way that looked.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fun.
Okay, see,
Very
and
comic booky.
a lot of people like that. I don't know why, but I thought it was so tacky.
The star.
So did Miguel.
Yeah.
Miguel absolutely.
Miguel also didn't like that.
Yeah.
Miguel was like,
Friend
"Are
of
you
the show.
fucking kidding me?"
Okay, I'm glad I,
I like
have
that
at
a
least
lot.
one person who agrees with
Yeah.
me.
I liked it because that came first, and then she either made or found a jacket with star patterns to just like make a superhero identity
Yeah.
out of that.
Yeah.
It was cool.
I think it's fine. It totally works. I don't. At the end of the day, at least it's something other than a giant circle. Like we've done giant circles. We've seen giant circles.
Do we
It
know
works
if
well
she's getting any like movie or show of her own?
I don't think so, although there have been rumors with a lot of the stuff going on in Disney Plus that they might end up doing like a Young Avengers type movie with like Yelena and a bunch of those other characters, and it's possible that she would be on a Young Avengers team. So
That's possible. I
that-
also imagine she's probably going to be in the next Doctor Strange movie.
You got to think anywhere there's a multiverse, I think she'll be found. And there are rumors that maybe they are building towards something, and maybe it is Secret Wars, which is a big multiversal event. In which case, she would be very important to that as well. So
Oh, actually, And at the end of this movie, she's shown training at Kamar-Taj.
That's
so
right.
she
And I
definitely
want her
will
to
be.
find her parents.
And she has to find her parents.
I'm sure that'll come.
They've opened a lot of stuff. They've set up a lot of stuff for like her own little story arc down the line.
Yeah, because
For
even
sure.
though she was just an object in this, like, I did appreciate that. Hey, I can say it. I did appreciate, like, even the one moment we got of her backstory and how she lost her parents in that, like, one universe where you could see your memories or whatever. That did tug at my heartstrings. We know I love that. So I'm definitely invested in where we go from here with her story. Even
Me too.
though I don't like the stars. But it is also, like, an interesting plot device to have her not have multiversal identities. Like, it's just...
Yeah, I like that a lot.
That was
fun.
really cool.
She was like-
yeah.
I like the idea of a character born outside of, like, between universes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
She-
so she literally is unique because she has no other alternate reality versions of herself.
And I will
It's
say I
very fun.
appreciated her introduction with, like, it being the dream and then her revealing that in dreams you're going to other universes so that, like, they actually lived that together. That was very cool.
I really like that too. That was a fun little like thing, and then it also comes back in one of my favorite cheesy but fun lines when he's talking to the Doctor Strange he doesn't know is evil yet, and he's like, "Have you ever had a dream where you're falling and you like wake up?" And he's like, "Yeah, that was probably me." And that's like his big like I'm an evil badass reveal moment, and I was like, "Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Good for you." But that was cool. I like. The whole opening scene I thought was great because it just like you just start
It was
and you're
exciting.
like
Yeah.
and like the first line of dialogue is in Spanish and I was like, are we in the right theater? Like what the fuck is happening right now? Like this is so weird. But it was great.
It was a nice in media res.
Yes, exactly. Also, I like how Doctor Strange, as he's about to take her powers, like he repeats a line that he said before about like this is the only way, like there's
Yeah.
no other way to do this.
Yeah,
or whatever.
well, it's when he gave the time stone away to Thanos.
That's right. That's exactly the moment when he
Which plays a theme in this movie as well.
Exactly, and that's why I think it works so well. And it was a fun callback in the moment. I was like, okay. And then when we get the scene after, which I alluded to in the intro, when Christine just stares into the camera and says, "You always have to be the person holding the knife," and I was like, bingo, got it. But like not, and I don't mean that in like a derisive way. Like
I thought you were... When you said, like, the thing she says to Screen that explains the whole film, I thought you were going to say her just asking him if he was happy.
I guess that's sort of like the B plot.
Yeah.
So she kind of has both. She sets
Well,
up
I
both.
mean, it's kind of the same thing, really.
There really isn't a strong... This is what I mean about it being a simple story. Like, it's all just sort of one thing that then resolves. Like, there's not... We're not cutting to, like, a different location to see, like, what's... It's really just, like, Wanda trying to get this thing, and Strange... And by this thing, I mean person. And Strange trying to help this person. And
These poor characters.
This poor... Yeah. Yeah, and it's very simple, but I think it's well executed. It's a nice little hero arc, which I always love. I like when you can do a nice little hero arc, and
Yeah, especially for Doctor Strange, because continuing off his last movie, it's this and his last movie aim to humanize him, basically.
yeah,
That's what this is.
And I and it can be a tough thing to, especially like my favorite Doctor Strange appearance outside of this movie was Infinity War, like we've talked about, but it's because he is like the ultimate badass.
And he is, in that movie, he is very objective.
Yes.
Because he has to be.
Because he has to be.
And now, in this movie, he's feeling the ramifications of that choice.
Mm-hmm. I think it's nice. It's not overly complex, but it works, and yeah, I really like it. And it lets you do a whole bunch of funky, cool shit around it, which is always the best. All right, we gotta talk about Wanda.
Yeah, we should dial back now and...
We really gotta get this Wanda thing out, because this is the other criticism people are saying that I fundamentally disagree with, which is that there are people that are insisting that this character turn makes no sense after WandaVision, and I'm like, did you watch
That's literally
WandaVision?
what WandaVision is about.
Yeah.
She brainwashed an entire community because of this one ideal that
Yes.
she just can't achieve.
100%.
It's really not too far. Okay, so
And she had to lose the love of her life all over again.
Yes, and her children.
Yeah, so
She had
even
to
worse
basically
now.
kill the children.
Yeah.
Okay, so in case you haven't watched WandaVision,
Which you should, because that was so
You
good.
should. It's good.
you should.
It's the
It's
best
my
Disney Plus
favorite,
show.
favorite
It is
Marvel
the best
show.
Disney Plus show. So in that show, just to sum it up, Wanda is dealing with the death of Vision from Infinity War, where she had to basically kill him to destroy the Infinity Stone before Thanos got it, even though Thanos ended up reversing time and getting the stone and then re-killing Vision.
Oh god, so good.
So he died twice in front of her. And then we pick up with her in WandaVision, and she has brainwashed an entire small town of people to basically live out this fantasy where her and this community and a made-up, recontextualized version of Vision that she conjured, basically, are living this happy, sitcom-esque life.
With
and they even have 2 children
yeah.
eventually, later in the show. So that show ends with her having to basically give all of that up. And there's like she has her own, like, she goes through an arc in that show, but then it leaves off in a place where she's learned what she did there was wrong, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she stopped caring about trying to get her children back. And that's where we pick up with Wanda in this movie.
Yeah.
So, because we're now deep into spoilers, we can say she is the main villain of this movie, and her motivation is to travel to a universe where her children are real and live in that universe with her children. And that's what sets the plot.
Well, but
motion,
also
basically.
she has now learned like dark magic from that.
True, yeah.
evil book.
She's now she calls herself the Scarlet Witch officially, like...
And that's also what I don't get about people saying she doesn't have enough motivation. They even say just you reading the book makes you evil. So even if for some reason all of that trauma wasn't enough motivation for her to do this, just her reading the book should then be enough.
Right.
I totally agree. And also, the last shot of WandaVision is her reading the book. So it's not
Yeah.
even like there's
By the way,
this plot element. Like,
we see the book is... It's called The Darkhold, right?
yeah, the
Yeah,
dark
Okay.
I forgot that.
Just because we've been saying the book, and
Yeah.
if you haven't seen it, you won't have any idea what.
And this is
fuck
what
we're
I'm
talking about.
This is what I meant about the Mummy having the same plot, because like in the Brendan Fraser Mummy, there's also like a Book of the Dead and like the Book of the Living or whatever, and like they need like they use the Book of the Dead to bring the Mummy back, and then they need to find the Book of the Living to kill the Mummy, and like that is literally the plot of this movie basically. So that's why I thought it was a good comparison. But I will agree with you guys 100%. I don't like it does make perfect sense. Like she was going through this trauma. What I like about it is this, right? WandaVision was her not understanding her powers. Like the majority of that show, she doesn't even necessarily fully realize that she's doing what she's doing. It's almost like this power is like doing the thing, and it's not until she's told that she's like, holy shit, I'm doing this. But what I like about that is, like we talked about, the fact that she now realizes she has this power, and she still feels the loss for the things that she has lost, and what she turned to was this evil dark magic. Like, yeah, maybe if she had just went to Doctor Strange or whatever, he could have helped her down a different path, but that's not what happened. What happened is she went down this other path and started exploring this dark magic. And so when we find her here, it's the same Wanda with all that power and motivation, but just corrupted because she's learning from the wrong thing. And also, like, Wanda, as introduced in the beginning of the MCU, was a villain. Like, she is not known for making the best choices. Like, she is all about just, like, going with her emotion and, like, what she feels like is the right thing to do in that moment. And so, yeah, she turned to this thing that ended up being bad. I don't know. I think it makes perfect sense. I think
it's also partially because Elizabeth Olsen herself is just so likable, too. And sometimes, like, she is a great actress. And honestly, in this movie, she is such a badass. I like the scene of her like bleeding from the head, like dragging her leg through that underground tunnel.
Oh, so good.
Amazing. So
good. Such Terminator vibes. So good.
It was
Okay,
a
something
joy.
else I want to jump off of real quick though is like her motivation in this movie is kind of even less fucked up if you think about it than what she was doing in WandaVision.
Yeah.
It's just that Doctor Strange and Wong worry about like her ability to do
what she's trying
disastrous
to do.
stuff. And just what she's trying to do.
I will
But,
say
like,
her motivation was less fucked up, and like brainwashing those people for so long like does suck, but it is also kind of jarring to see her then like flat out like killing people without a second thought in this.
And I think that's what is catching people is not the character motivation. I think it's the I am now straight up an evil villainess that's going to use magic to kill people, which we haven't really ever seen in the MCU, like explicitly. Like, yeah, someone blows up in a building or whatever. Like, but like she literally,
especially
shuts
from
Black
a
Wolf's mouth
hero
shut.
turned villain, that's really jarring.
Sure. Whereas I think the thing with WandaVision too, that we're as fucked up as that show was, it doesn't present itself as fucked up. It presents itself as like this whimsical sitcom show. And like when you
I
find
think
out
that's where people are getting confused.
exactly is people are focusing on the tone and not
That's
the
another
character
argument
work.
that we have to make because and Marco and I have talked a little bit about this already, but just to reiterate, another criticism was that WandaVision had a tone that is very jarring compared to WandaVision's story in this. And I don't think that at all. Like, I think WandaVision basically like you just said, like, it presents this weird preppy sitcom-y facade. Mm-hmm. But that is just the surface level. Under that it's much more sinister. So when you look at that, I think there's barely any discrepancy between the tone there and shifting into this movie.
I think the biggest problem, honestly, is that because it's a TV show and it's a standalone piece of content and she's the protagonist, they had to wrap it up in a way that felt narratively satisfying. And like we've talked endlessly about, the last episode is the worst episode because it just kind of ends and we go, oh, everything's mostly okay. And like, yeah, we're hinting at that she's reading from this book or whatever, but I feel like if they were allowed, and they probably weren't, but if they were allowed to finish that show and leave it in a more dark, kind of sad place, then coming into this, I think people would have less of a problem. Like, we are all very literate. So, like, we have the ability to...
Speak for yourself, I can't read.
Yeah, we have the ability to, like, understand the motivation and then, like, see where this movie picks up and go, oh, yeah.
You're essentially saying we're not dumb.
Yes, and I feel bad saying that, but when I'm reading a lot of these criticisms, I'm like, do you watch media? Or do you just listen to TikToks about the show WandaVision and you don't even know what happened and you just remember that fun WandaVision song from the show WandaVision? Like, what? Like, it makes complete sense, and I think the other thing people, like, find jarring is just that WandaVision is a show made by some guy, and it has that some person MCU feel to it, with the exception of the sitcom stuff, which is really good. But
you know who was the creator, actually?
Who's
the
that?
director, the main creator of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
And I think he's the guy doing the next Star Trek movie.
Yes.
Cool.
That guy.
Anyway, like, and yeah, it has a very sitcom feel, except for the modern day, which feels exactly like the rest of the fucking MCU.
Yeah.
And I think the problem that people are having is, like, this is a movie directed by Sam Raimi, and so the villains in Sam Raimi movies are very big, crazy, over-the-top performance villains that act like monsters. And, like, that's a stylistic choice, like you said, about having, like, a new artist. Like, Wanda doesn't look like how Wanda looks like, but she's still written with the same character motivations. So, you know, I mean, just have a little bit of brain power, and I think you'll power through whatever criticisms you might have.
Can we talk about my favorite over-the-top plot element?
Yes, please.
It's when Doctor Strange has to also read the book, the Dark Book, that I already forget the name of because I have no memory.
The Darkhold.
Yep.
Yes.
And then he has to shadow walk, which just is essentially possessing the body of yours in another universe. And so he has to possess a dead body of his that's in the universe where Wanda is. And it's hilarious because obviously he's not supposed to do that. So then there's like evil dark spirits like swirling around him the whole time. And like at one point Rachel McAdams literally points a light at them and shouts, "Go to hell" or something, or "Go back to hell." It was my favorite moment in the whole movie, hands down. That line, hilarious. I laughed out loud so hard, and I can't stop thinking about it. It was perfection.
It's so good. That whole stretch is like probably my favorite stretch in this movie. Like, even with the John Krasinski cameo, like
it looked very. Have you guys seen Hocus Pocus?
Yes,
because him in the dead body reminded me so much of the dead guy in Hocus Pocus.
It does. That is a very fair comparison.
It was so good.
But yeah, it had that, again, just that like 90s camp. I was like, oh my god, I'm here for this. When she's like, how are you gonna do it? There's not another you in that universe. And he's like, I didn't say, had to be alive. And I was like, and then the fucking zombie hand just shoots out of the grave, and I was like, hell yes, dude, are you kidding me?
Straight up just Evil Dead reference now.
It's so good. But then even then, like, it's followed up with him like being like, oh, I can't do this, like the souls of the damned or whatever. And she's like, Steven, like, you are the master of the mystic arts. Like, just fucking, like, put them in line or whatever. And then he, like, takes the souls of the damned and turns it into his cape.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
I was like...
He looked like a Dementor.
I was like, this is the Doctor Strange content I'm here for. And, like, I have to say, I really like, again, like we've talked about, the character work in the first Doctor Strange movie is pretty solid. It's a nice little origin story for him. He learns a lesson. But the extent of the magic in that movie is stuff we saw in Inception and also, like, orange lights. That's, like... And I felt a little bit like the end of the Harry Potter franchise disappointed, where I was like, oh, so we're just shooting colors at each other now? Like, we were not doing anything? And so what I love about this movie, about that zombie scene, but about this whole movie in general, and a specific scene I'm sure we will want to talk about, is, like, their use of magic and the fucked up things that they do with magic is so enjoyable to watch. And especially when it's coming out of Sam Raimi, who is a campy, schlocky horror filmmaker. I'm like, this is perfect. This is what I want magic to be in this universe. Do weird shit. Like, I don't care about orange blasts hitting people, but, like, yeah, you possessing your dead body and using the souls of the damned as a cape? Fuck yeah. I am so here for that.
Do you care more about music hitting people?
Okay.
Even more, probably.
Even better. That scene, Dan and I both think that's like a top 5 MCU fight scene.
Really?
Yeah.
I love it.
Did you not like it?
No.
You didn't like it?
Oh my god, Carol, you are wrong. That scene is so good.
You're wrong.
You are wrong.
I liked them interacting until they started shooting music at each other.
That's the best part.
I loved it.
That was like unlike anything
I
I've seen
preferred
in
the
MCU.
souls of the damned flying and then them fighting, like, also on his, like, shadow walking body, like, floating in the air. I liked that a lot better than the music fight, to be honest. The music fight was a little, like, too silly for me in the context.
And you're not, most people seem to have that take. Like, for me, whenever you are ever doing anything with magic, the dumber you can make it. The further away from reality we can make it.
Like, I appreciate the imaginativeness that came up.
The imagination?
Yeah,
Is that the
yeah,
word?
that's a word. Sure, whatever. I appreciate the imagination behind it.
The imaginativity.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But just, I didn't need to watch it.
And I love like Danny Elfman's score is like so well used there, like the way it's like the different musical notes as they're hitting, and then also when he fires the notes at him and the other Doctor Strange is dodging them. It's just like when Spider-Man is dodging the Green Goblin's razor blades in Spider-Man 1. I was like, Sam, I saw what you did there, buddy. Like, I was there, Gandalf 10,000 years ago. Like, I remember seeing that scene. I know what that is. I loved everything about this scene. It is ridiculous and campy and silly, and it's so dumb, but it's like everything I want a magic fight to be. If I have to watch one more magic fight where two different colors just collide and they just stay there and someone pushes a little bit harder and they go, like, I'm so sick of that
Like a
shit.
tug
It
of
was
war.
better than that, sure.
That's all I'm looking for. Like,
Yeah.
just try stuff. Like, at this point, I'm giving you an A for
Try.
effort. I don't even care if it works. I just want to see something that I could not see otherwise, and at least it did that. But I also think, again, like, that is such a litmus test for this, of, like, just be prepared. Like, some weird shit is going to happen in this movie. There's going to be a literal music fight with magical flying musical notes.
And not like the music fight we talked about last week. Like
No.
on Whiplash, where we're fighting by playing music.
Correct.
This movie's wild.
Yeah. This movie's fucking crazy.
Okay, I have one, I don't know if it's a complaint. I will just say I don't really know if it should have happened.
Sure.
It was when they were at the mountain that had the evil book words written on it, and like they found, it was sick that they found and went essentially, or found like a monument to Wanda, or like the Scarlet Witch technically. That, sick. Loved that. And also the twist that there were like the big monster things that then were like actually worshiping her. Awesome. Appreciated it. But at one point, Wong fell off the edge of a cliff and like tried to save himself and then didn't.
Yeah.
And then later it was revealed that he just like very conveniently fell on this perfect sized ledge and was totally fine and came back and helped. I thought that was a little like silly. Like, I mean, obviously a lot of this movie was silly and I loved most of the silliness, but that was just one thing where I was like, that's a little too perfect.
That reminded me of Lord of the Rings, when in Return of the King, when Gollum throws the elf bread off of the cliff.
Yeah.
Oh,
And when Sam's climbing back down, he notices it on a little rocky ledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I think it is? I think that is plot silly, not style silly.
Yes, yes,
like
yes.
style silly stuff is fine, but yeah, that is a very like Wong's still here, and it's like, okay.
Like, I would have rathered he,
mean-
like, actually was able to get his hook stuck onto something and, like, further down, and we didn't see that till
Sure.
later, because that's more plausible to me than just this, like, perfect, gigantic cliff for him to nicely fall onto
Yes,
and not even
exactly.
be hurt, apparently.
I agree.
Exactly.
But that's also why I don't usually have problems with this type of stuff. If there was a way they could have written around it but just didn't, I forgive it, rather than like if there wasn't a way to write around it, so they're just like, just believe that this happened. Like, it's kind of a plot hole at that point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
If there was a way, even if they didn't take that route, but it exists, I usually like forgive stupid shit like that.
That's fair. That is fair. And yeah, I mean, it's just, in a movie this jam-packed, yeah, it's definitely one of those moments. I bumped on it too. I was like, okay, I
But
guess.
also, like, there's no
Fuck it.
way. There's no way they were gonna kill off Wong.
Well,
Of
see, that
course,
was also,
way.
that was one part where I was like, okay, in the multiverse-ness of it all, I was like, okay, Wong's dead, like, whatever. Like, I even turned to my friend and I'm like, sucks. Like, when he fell initially and we didn't know he was saved, I was like, all right, he's gone, but, like, I'm sure we'll see him somewhere.
And then he was back.
Yeah.
See, I thought they might actually kill Wong, and then Doctor Strange would become the Sorcerer Supreme again.
Well, that was possible, but I just mean not in the way that he supposedly died,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
randomly falling off a cliff. They didn't even like show a close-up of him falling off a cliff.
You know
I
what it
know.
reminds me of? Is in Star Trek Into Darkness. This is such a random pull, but like at the end of that movie, hey, Benedict Cumberbatch. At the end of that movie, after Khan has like sabotaged the ship or something, and like it's crashing, and then there's like the one shot where there's like the cloud line, and the ship falls beneath the cloud line.
Oh.
And then it like rises back up because they got the engines working again, and like the Star Trek theme plays, and I'm like,
It's the
Whoa.
Back to the Future 2 shot.
yeah, like
That's
I'm
all
like
it is.
there was no emotional stakes in this scene whatsoever. Like we all knew that everything was gonna be fine.
When you hold on the cloud line, what do you expect us to think is about to happen?
We just cut after like a few minutes of holding on it.
Credits?
Okay, weird. That was a really weird end to the movie.
It's pretty
Fade
gruesome.
to
We don't wanna
white.
show you this.
Yeah, fade to white.
Planet of the Apes style?
Yeah, just text shows up. Khan took over Earth.
It's like a video game death screen.
Yeah. Like the Arkham death screens where
Yeah.
Khan just walks up and he starts like tormenting
Shit-talking you,
Shit
yeah.
talking you.
Do we want to go over our predictions and what we got right and what we got wrong?
Yes,
Yeah.
we should do that. Before we do that, I just want to say, like, do you any of you guys have like a favorite Wanda kill? Because she's like a horror
Oh.
villain in this, and she has so many
I do.
great kills. Okay, go for it.
Mine is the Captain Carter one, where she slices her with the shield.
Very good kill.
Oof. I don't know if I remember any other ones specifically.
Okay, so let's go over them.
Okay, so mine, I will just say mine is
Okay.
the Black Bolt one.
That was
Because
hilarious.
I hate the character of Black Bolt, and so when she just like shut his mouth and he tried to speak and blew up his own head, I was like, yes, thank you. Get this fucker
Why
off
do
the
you hate
screen.
him?
Because his power, Carol, is that he wears a tuning fork on his head, and when he speaks, shockwaves come out and vaporize people or something. And also, he's a part of the Inhumans, which are the worst superhero team ever in the history of superheroes. Fuck Black Bolt.
Okay.
Fuck
fair.
him. Blackagar Boltagon. What a stupid name. Fuck him. I'm glad he's dead.
Okay.
Okay, so then the other ones were Mr. Fantastic gets like
Turn to spaghetti.
yeah, he gets pulled apart basically, like Play-Doh. Professor X.
Ooh, that the neck snap in the Mindscape.
Oh yeah, she just snaps his
Oh,
neck. Basically.
yeah. That was
But-
pretty
oh, yeah.
badass.
That
So
was
she
cool.
snaps his neck in his mind. and
That
then
was dope.
It's like psychosomatic, so he actually
Mm-hmm.
dies.
That
It's
was
like
really
if you
cool.
die in the Matrix, you die in real life
Exactly.
because your heart can't take it or whatever.
Because your mind makes it real.
Died of a broken heart,
Yeah.
broken neck. More
She
like.
lost the will to live.
And then how did Captain Marvel die?
can't
she was
remember.
like, Captain Marvel was the only one that really like actually fought with her and was
Mhm.
able to stand up to her like powers wise.
I remember she was like flying around her and being like, "It's my world," and she's like, "No, it's not." And then she died, but I don't remember how.
I think
She might have crushed her with something.
Yeah, I vaguely remember
Like a
something
big
falling
rock.
on her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was just a more traditional superhero.
Or I think there was like a
fight.
statue that fell on her.
That's what
That's
it
what it
was.
was.
The
Yeah, there was a
Illuminati
statue in the building.
lobby statue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
So that being said,
I'd say
What
Patrick
was your
Stewart
favorite?
then.
Matrix death.
I love that when he's reaching out to her, just this red cloud on the white landscape.
Yeah.
I was like, when that scene happened, I was like, God, this movie is so beautiful to look at. Like, just the colors, the vibrancy, the wildness of it all. Like, come on. Or when she came out after killing all the Ultron bots, and was covered in oil, but like it looks like blood, but like that's how they got around like having her be covered in blood, like an actual horror movie, because it has to be PG-13. I was like, what a cool choice! Like that looks cool.
It's like in Promising Young Woman when she has ketchup on her.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what I was. Great. What a great movie.
Okay, wait. Actually, before we get into our predictions, what the fuck is up with Charlize Theron? Who is she?
Oh, okay, yeah. Should we talk about those post-credit scenes?
Sure.
First? Also, Wanda dies? Question mark.
She's definitely not dead because she has more movies on her contract, but
it'll probably be like an alternate.
She sacrificed herself in this universe.
Or maybe it'll be like the Phoenix thing, where like the Scarlet Witch part of her died or something, and she's really gonna be alive, and she'll have to make do, like rectify the situation.
Yeah,
and,
possibly
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, it's too bad that she does have more movies on her contract, because I would be fine with this being her arc, like the resolution of her character.
The end of it.
Yeah. I think it was serviceable. Like it was unexpected for sure. But
you get the Dr. Octopus, I will not die a monster.
Oh yeah, that's another comparison
from Spider-Man 2.
She basically died the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I think I agree. I mean, her seeing her kids and how they're afraid of her and that sort of emotional scene, I was like, oh yeah, this works. It was nice. But yeah, I assume knowing them that she's gonna come back somehow and actually end up being a hero or something. Or maybe she'll introduce mutants. Maybe she'll do the House of M thing. That
probably.
We'll see.
That might play into it a little bit.
Anyway, so
now, sorry.
Yeah. No, go.
I was just gonna say, because now all of the mutants, in quotes, that have ever been introduced in the MCU are currently dead. We just got Professor X. He immediately died, and now both Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are all dead. So they have to, like, how else are they gonna integrate these?
Yeah, it's gotta
mutants if they don't already have like a mutant character to start off with, right?
These muties. How are they going to integrate these goddamn muties?
That's racist.
Yeah. I know. Anyway, and then just to touch on the post credits, so the character's name is Clea or Cleo or
Clea.
I don't know.
CLEA.
Carol, I got to be honest with you. This was the first time in a post credit scene where I felt like they're normal people. Because normally a post credit scene happens. Normally a post-credit scene happens, and I'm like, oh, that's this character from this, and that means they're setting up that. Yeah, I got it. But like,
no, here's how it usually goes down, okay? A post-credit scene happens, the whole group of us go to see it, Marco's like somewhere in the middle of all of us.
Yeah.
We watch the scene, and then all the heads turn towards the center, towards where Marco's sitting, to be like, can you explain what just happened?
Yeah. And the same thing happened with this one, and my response was, I have no fucking idea what that was.
Yes. So we looked it up after the fact, and apparently it's just continuing on the Dormammu storyline from the first movie.
So Clea is related to Dormammu somehow.
I think she's his daughter.
Yeah.
That's what it said.
In the comics, and also she eventually becomes like Doctor Strange's wife. They end up getting married and stuff. So nice little romance subplot there. I will say though, interestingly, people have theorized because Dormammu in the first Doctor Strange was voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch. And so people have theorized, like, what if the Dark Dimension is a universe where the Doctor Strange in that universe just went fully evil and he's
But then he can't marry his daughter.
Well, no. I mean, like, but, like, maybe she's not actually related to him in that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because that's just comics.
So how... Dormammu is, like a space entity. How does he have, like, a humanoid...
I don't know. Maybe it's like the Wizard of Oz, you know? It's all smoke and mirrors. Maybe he's like... There's a real person somewhere.
Oh, so maybe behind the Dormammu curtain was just a Doctor Strange standing there? That's possible.
Possible. I mean, he voiced the character, so it's not impossible.
Actually, another Wizard of Oz tie. Sam Raimi directed the Wizard of Oz reboot that sucks.
Oz the Great and Powerful?
Yeah. All right, predictions?
Carol?
Yeah,
you're
I'll
up
go first.
You went first on this list. So we should say for all the listeners, even though we have no proof of this, but on this Google Doc it says last edit was 3 days ago.
And is there any way we can post this with, like, created on this date or whatever?
You think they won't believe us?
I don't know.
We were wrong enough that I think, I mean, at least
that's true.
That I think it's believable.
We'd probably make ourselves be more right if we made this up, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Start tweaking our predictions.
I'm like typing as I'm reading.
Yeah, we should have posted this before the movie.
Yeah, we fucking
whatever.
We're so bad at this podcast.
But just believe us that
there's Google edit history. All right, we can see exactly when everything was written.
Oh. Yeah, don't worry. We can see when everything was written.
Trust us. Last edit 3 days ago. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I wrote that Andrew Garfield will make an appearance. This is more a hope than a prediction. I was obviously very wrong. Very upset. The bald man from the X-Men will be in it because it was basically in the trailer. I was right. Ding, ding, ding. And then my third point is, as I'm trying to write this, I realize I have no thoughts because I don't even remember the last Doctor Strange movie. Also correct. And then I have Wong dies ? Which
you were almost right.
Almost right, but then he found that magical cliff.
That's why you hate the scene so much.
That's why you're so upset, because it proved your prediction wrong.
Because it was almost my one correct thing.
Yeah.
And then we'll see all of the Avengers at some point, ? Even if it's just a flashback, ? This one is just a crazy idea for fun. Obviously didn't happen, which honestly is for the best.
Well, we saw the Illuminati. I mean, they had some
That's
Avengers
not what I
on the
meant,
team.
though.
I know. Yeah. I'm trying to help you out, Kara. I'm trying to give you one.
No, I'm
like
totally
a
okay with
Thanos
being wrong
flashback.
in this instance.
Right.
I really wasn't expecting anything out of this for myself. And then I have Shang-Chi will show up because I was getting drinks with my friends before watching this, and one of my friends brought up that he thought that just because of how Wong was at the end of Shang-Chi. But obviously that also did not happen, and that's okay. That was it.
Nice.
Because as I said, I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
The Shang-Chi one especially was a really strong, like, that could have...
I'll tell Joey.
Nice. That should have happened, yeah. All right, so my predictions were split into two categories, plot and cameos. So for plot, point number one. Kevin Feige has explained that the events of Loki are what allow the multiverse to now be blown open, which is why the spell going wrong in Spider-Man worked that way to actually bring the characters in and whatnot. I think this movie will be about Doctor Strange trying to reconsolidate the multiverse back into a single universe to avoid a second multiversal war, because the first one was referenced in Loki. Totally not what happened. Big incorrect for me, although that sounds like it would be a pretty good movie, but fuck me.
Maybe some other time.
Yeah, no Kang in this.
No Kang.
Nothing, no ties to Loki, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Which that is very surprising, actually. But
well, this movie was originally 2 hours and 45 minutes long, and they cut a lot of stuff out, so maybe they were in there at some point, but who knows? I'm not trying to start a release the Raimi cut, but, you know.
I would be
this
excited
is
to
the
see that.
Raimi cut.
Yeah, but you know, the actual Raimi cut.
The director's cut.
Yeah. Point number two, I think Wanda will be on edge of good and evil, but ultimately I think she will run into an evil variant of herself, one that didn't turn good at the end of WandaVision, ? And by the end of the movie, her arc will be centered around becoming fully good again. Elizabeth Olsen has mentioned numerous times how much she wants to adapt the House of M storyline, where Wanda says no more mutants and wipes them off the face of the earth. I think in this movie we will encounter the evil Wanda variant who already did this in her universe, and Wanda will do the opposite of this to create mutants in our universe. Did not happen whatsoever. So.
Some of that was right, though.
I mean, she was definitely evil.
Yeah.
There was an evil Wanda
edge,
in this movie.
She was on the edge of good and evil for the end of it, and then she redeemed herself.
That's fair. I guess that did technically happen. Thank you. Okay, point number three. I think the version of the Illuminati that we see in this movie will be a group of people who previously formed to stop the original multiversal war. No, they just are people from a universe that killed Thanos in that universe, unfortunately. I think they are now recruiting Doctor Strange. Nope. And he will ultimately become the leader of the team.
Killed him, actually.
I think this movie will serve as the original Crisis did in the DC Comics universe, to consolidate a bunch of universes and end up with the multiverse being closed again. However, because we know for a fact some version of Prof X is in the Illuminati from the trailers, I think this is what will cause Wanda to create mutants in the MCU, as she'll realize how important they are. Yeah, again, none of that. I'm just getting way too nerdy about this stuff. This movie is way too simple.
Yeah.
Okay, these are my cameo
You really
predictions.
mega-minded this.
I really, again, I think we're all just in like the when's Mephisto gonna show up? Like, and meanwhile they're just like we're making a fun movie, so which is great, which is totally great. Okay, my cameo predictions. Point number one: although Professor X is in the movie for sure, I am sticking by my theory that this is Professor X from the '90s animated universe. Why else would they announce they're bringing that show back? Every Disney Plus show is canon at this point, and if that's the case, they're definitely gonna bring back that classic theme.
All of that was correct.
All of that was correct. Go me. Point number two. I think Haley Atwell will definitely have a cameo as Captain Carter. I mean, she's come back to reprise the role for way less cool shit, and this way she could be face-to-face with a certain someone. See point four.
Most of that was right.
Most of that was right. Point three. I think it is likely we'll see the two Spider-Boys back again, even if it's more of a brief cameo than they had. Nope. Definitely did not happen. Point number four. I wouldn't be surprised if we see multiple versions of the Fantastic Four. I think we'll see the entire original team in some sort of cameo. And I think Chris Evans, Johnny Storm will hit on Captain Carter.
You know they couldn't actually do that, right?
They 100% could have.
That would have been a cute little
yes,
cameo.
they 100% could have. I'm unclear
There's
on
no
who
way
will
you
be
could explain that. That would just break my brain.
Listen, they could have just been a scene where they were tumbling through multiverses and they get to one. There's one where they're paint, for fuck's sakes. They could have got to one where it's the bad Fantastic Four movie.
It can't be Chris Evans as a totally different
Yes, it can.
No.
Fuck it. Anyway.
Oh, and there's also a universe where they're animated, which absolutely opens the door for the Spider-Verse crossover eventually.
Bingo bango.
And they confirmed that our universe is 616, which is awesome.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, that was a bunch of nerds said that in my theater. At one point there was like a pause. It's like, what universe number is this? And you could hear people go, 616! And then they said it. They were like, yeah!
Hell yeah. We got one.
We got one.
I'm unclear on who will be the Reed Richards in the Illuminati. I don't think it will be the guy from the old movies, but I also strongly believe all the Illuminati members we are going to see are going to be variant versions of the characters, i.e. they won't stay in the MCU proper, they'll just grandfather in the idea of these characters existing. So based on that, if it's not the guy from the original movies, I'm going to go on a long shot here and say maybe Marvel does stunt cast John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. People have asked for that for years, especially if he's just playing a variant version of the character and not one in the MCU proper. Why not? Also, the Fantastic Four movie they're making just lost its director. Maybe that director was never on the movie and it was all a marketing scheme to hide the fact that John Krasinski could be the MCU Reed and directing that movie. So, part of that remains to be seen, but he was the Mr. Fantastic.
Yep.
Point number 5. Oh, boy. I think we could have some sort of tumbling through dimension scene where we see a bunch of old footage of certain people, Affleck as Daredevil, Hulk 2003, Ghost Rider, etc. I don't think they would get any of those people back for speaking roles, but Doctor Strange could totally fall through a dimension and be like, what is this?
Obviously, that did not happen.
So wrong.
Number 6, super duper long shot, but I think we could see an entire variant Avengers team made up of what-if casting, like Tom Cruise as Tony Stark, John Krasinski as Captain America, Tom Hiddleston as Thor. He was second up to play Thor.
Okay.
Yeah, so Emily Blunt is Black Widow. So yeah, just to be clear, so Tom Cruise famously was almost Tony Stark in the 90s.
I would have fucking hated that.
I would have been so good, Carol. John Krasinski was runner-up to play Captain America, and he lost the part to Chris Evans. Tom Hiddleston was runner-up to play Thor, and he lost the part to Chris Hemsworth, but he became Loki, which, good for him. And Emily Blunt was offered the part of Black Widow and turned it down. And it went to Scarlett Johansson. So I thought maybe we would get all those peeps back.
I think John Krasinski would be a better Captain America than Reed Richards.
I agree. I would much rather see him
I
as
also
a
agree with
Captain,
that. But I mean,
we'll take him where we can get him.
It would be so hard because Chris Evans was like the perfect Captain America.
Yeah, no, obviously Chris Evans was better, but I'm just saying.
I often think about a what if where I'd love to see what that would have looked like.
I think it would have been cool. But yeah, I agree. I'm glad that obviously Chris Evans became so definitive in the role. All right, Dan.
All right.
You're up.
Mine's more in paragraph form, by the way, so we're just going to have to compare as we go.
Go for it.
Okay, so after the stress of the events of WandaVision, Loki, and No Way Home, on the multiverse, it will start to spill into the main MC reality. Doctor Strange will have to attempt to control it and also enter the tear that leads to a weird interdimensional no man's land where he will meet the Illuminati. So as we've already discussed, that's not really correct at all. He will also be turned on to the idea of the multiverse from his old pal Mordo. Not really at all.
Not really.
He meets Mordo in the multiverse,
yeah.
but...
It's a different Mordo.
Yes. That was surprising, by the way. The only Mordo that we saw in this movie was not even the same Mordo from the first movie.
How about that effect, though, where the screen just stretched and everything got wobbly?
What do you mean?
Remember after he poisoned them and, the image just stretched and everyone was like, whoa!
Yeah.
And I was like, is this a
That was funny.
That was very
fan
fresh.
film? Yeah. Yeah.
Along the way, or as a result of some accident, he will get a quick montage-style glimpse of the realities of other select previous Marvel properties. More on that below.
We really wanted it.
Yeah.
So bad.
And they will officially be recognized as multiversal canon. Okay, so I just want to address, even though we didn't get that, I think this movie officially does imply
Everything's
that
canon.
everything Marvel has made live action is now technically canon.
I agree.
Even if it's not shown in this movie. So I'm going to count that as kind of right.
Yeah. I get it.
I mean, we don't get the montage, but the rest is right. I also think that no matter... Oh, this is basically what I just said. No matter which properties are shown, it'll imply, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Perfect.
While Doctor Strange will try to sew the multiverse back together, Wanda will team up with Mordo, and try to unleash it.
Also, Doctor Strange doesn't even try to tie the multiverse back together at all, really.
Yeah, we really thought this movie was going to be about, the multiverse, being broken and expanded. It's really
it was
not that
exploring
whatsoever.
the multiverse,
Yeah.
It wasn't like in No Way Home where it's invading our reality. It's different. So that's wrong, but she does try to unleash it because of her lost hope in this reality. Doctor Strange will have to call upon the help of interdimensional Marvel characters, old and new, more on that below, to contain it. He does call upon the help of new interdimensional Marvel characters, so I guess it's
half
partially
right.
Yeah. I think the movie will end in a place that looks to continue the multiverse concept going forward. Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Either with some multiversal tears surviving, or with a method of traveling to and communicating with other realities and their inhabitants. We kind of have that because we have America Chavez. I think the most likely unconfirmed characters to show up are the rebooted X-Men characters. We got one of them. In the cameo montage, maybe to help Doctor Strange, Tom Cruise's Iron Man as a member of the interdimensional Illuminati. No, once again, we didn't get that.
Didn't get that.
Some form of Reed Richards on the Illuminati, yes. Either a 2005 version, no, or a new version played by one Jonathan Krasinski.
Also,
yes.
I love that you wrote Jonathan Krasinski.
I love using people's full names when they have shortened names.
It's funny.
And probably Black Bolt from the Inhumans movie for pasta. Okay, was he
How
from...
the fuck did you get that?
Yeah, I was.
Was he from
surprised.
the movie though? I didn't watch the movie. So
Yes, it's the same actor.
Okay, so that was right.
Yeah.
Sweet. The 2005 Fantastic Four will possibly show up in the cameo montage, as well as maybe 2003 Daredevil, but I doubt that they'll affect the plot at all. It didn't happen at all, so whatever. Captain Carter will almost definitely show up. Yeah. Yes. Hopefully in a significant role. Kind of. We may see glimpses of alternate futures from the What If episodes. We definitely did. Yeah. I think this will be an MCU movie that changes the status quo of the overarching story going forward, pretty much. This movie may set up the next iteration of the Avengers, be it that the Illuminati is that next iteration, a multiversal Avengers team forms, or the X-Men and or Fantastic Four become the new team replacement for that type of ensemble film going forward.
None of that really
So we didn't really talk about that.
Yeah.
The movie doesn't address that, but we should end this episode with kind of predicting where that next phase of team up movie may go. Like, do we think we're going to keep getting Avengers movies, or...
I don't think so.
Nah.
I also don't think so. I mean, they haven't talked about that at all, which is also why I don't think so. I think they would have announced...
And also, like, they've been they were making Avengers movies for, what, 10, 15 years? Like,
yeah, and there's
kind of fleshed out.
Basically 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Civil War, right?
I mean, yeah.
Well, even though, like, not, like, the non-Avengers movies that starred the Avengers still felt pretty Avengers-y, and there was usually, like, one other one in there. So even though they weren't, like, an Avengers movie, quote-unquote, there was, like...
Yeah, like Civil War is an Avengers movie.
Yeah, exactly. So there were, like, a lot of them.
Yeah. No, I think, I really think they could, like, do the X-Men as...
Just the next...
As the next team up. But maybe just have, like, separate movies about separate characters.
And you can have now, like, it's... Oh, this is so cool. You could have an X-Men movie that just has other non-mutant people helping the team.
Yeah.
But the X-Men is just, like, the official team.
Yeah. Totally. Or, and if you wanted to do, let's say, Fantastic Four, because they are making a Fantastic Four movie, there's tons of characters that have worked with the Fantastic Four. Spider-Man is very famous for doing lots of stuff with the Fantastic Four, so you could also build a team up around the Fantastic Four as well. So yeah, there's tons of options. I think one of those two teams for sure. If I had to guess, I would say X-Men, but currently there's actually, like, nothing in any production schedule about X-Men whatsoever, and we actually know they are making a Fantastic Four movie, so... You know, but I don't think that disqualifies the fact that they will do X-Men shit. It's just, they're taking their time with it, which is fine. Give it some space. We've just seen a bunch of crap X-Men content. We can wait a little bit and get some good stuff. It's no big deal.
Yeah. You know what I think? I think rather than phase 1 to 3 being, like, the building of one central team, I think phases 4 to whatever, 6 or whatever the next group of phases is going to be, I think it's going to focus on building... multiple teams, and these teams, like, getting to work with and getting to know each other more than just the larger group of all of the current MCU characters. I think it'll be more segmented than before.
If I had to guess in terms of my, like, end of phase 6, what is the long con of this era of the MCU, which, as we've said, none of us really care about because just do weird fun shit. But in terms of whatever they're going to do, I would have to imagine that what we're building towards as an Avengers Endgame level event is going to be Secret Wars, and I would imagine that, yes, we're going to build all these separate teams, and then when we get to that, which, by the way, like, Secret Wars is the story where basically all the multiverses collide, and it's this big full-out war type thing, I would think that's where we would get the formation of the 616 Illuminati. So like we'll flesh out Fantastic Four and we'll flesh out X-Men, and Guardians are still doing their thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Guardians are still around, right?
Yeah, and
not for long though.
Well, yeah, because James Gunn said this is the last one, but like it's possible
no offense,
that those.
Thank God, I'm so over Chris Pratt.
Yeah, me too. I really am. When he showed up in the Thor trailer, I was like, okay, you're here. Mario himself. Mario and Garfield, the two greatest Italian characters of all time.
Garfield's Italian?
Ow.
He likes lasagna. I don't know. So no, he's not. I'm just fucking around. But yeah, I think we're gonna build up the Secret Wars. I think we're gonna get the 616 Illuminati. I think that's gonna be the big thing of like bringing all these people together. And by the way, all the cameos that we didn't fucking get in this movie, we are gonna definitely get in Secret Wars. Mark my goddamn words. Affleck is coming back as Daredevil. Eric Bana is coming back as the Hulk. Fucking the old Fantastic Four. Everyone's coming back for Secret Wars. Everyone. Nothing
Okay, but by the
off-limits.
time they get there, will everyone be alive?
You know what? They'll just
But
film
how's that-
their scenes beforehand.
No, they'll just use archive footage.
Yeah, archive footage. Fuck it.
But how's that going to work though? Because again, like, we can't have two characters be the same character but look different.
Unless they just break the rule. I mean, you know,
Oh.
like it's possible they'll just break the rule at some point. But as of right now, that's what's been established. But if they break the rule, then. But wait a minute, they already have broke the rule because Toby and Andrew.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I guess that rule is already.
But that's allowed because of the Spider-Verse, right?
I think it's all just the same shit. I think it's all supposed to be the same idea. It's all just multiverse.
Well, is that supposed to imply that Andrew Garfield is what Tom Holland will look like in like 10 years, and then 10 years later they'll look like
that's what they'll look like Toby?
So he's gonna get better looking and then worse?
Yeah.
Is that what's going on?
Yes.
Or are they just different people?
I think they're just.
I mean, that obviously we were all perfectly willing for that rule to be broken. Also, the rule hadn't been established.
That's
yet,
fair. Now that
so
the rule's established, if they just break it in the future,
it'll
then
be weird. But
whatever. I mean, whatever. If it means we get Affleck back as Daredevil, like I will be there to see it in theaters, and Evanescence will show up and play the song live, and
Right in the theater.
in the theater they will play it at every
Like a
showing.
play?
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, but I do think like I think part of the reason they showed so much restraint with cameos in this movie is because we are gonna get
more
crazy ass cameos down the line in other multiverse shit.
Speaking of cameos, we forgot to talk about the other post-credit scene.
Yes, Bruce Campbell.
Yeah. Who is also in the movie, by the way.
Love
Yeah.
him. Love
Because
Bruce
it's a Sam
Campbell.
Raimi movie, so of course he has a cameo.
Yeah.
Wait, do we
And,
know who that is? It's just a
Bruce
hot dog
Campbell?
vendor.
Yeah, but the actor, Bruce
Oh,
Campbell.
okay, sure.
He's
Yeah. Yeah, he's just
Sorry,
a
not
hot
a hot dog vendor. Sorry, a pizza ball vendor. I apologize.
right. Yes.
Very important.
Yeah.
Eric Andre style.
I love the fact that they're committed to the mid-credit scene being plot important and the post-credit scene just being like,
A joke.
just laugh at something. Like, I'm totally fine
I think
with
that started with the Guardians of the Galaxy with the Howard the Duck
Yes.
post-credit scene.
Yes.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's sort of like where that formula was kind of established. And to a certain extent, the first Avengers, because
yeah,
of the shawarma
that's
scene
right.
at the end. But what a good run, eh? Spider-Man No Way Home, The Batman, and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Great.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome. Nice trilogy of movies. Okay.
Unfortunately, we had the Disney Plus shows sprinkled in there between them.
And
but-
Morbius. But
Yeah, I didn't see Morbius.
I didn't see Morbius either. I just want to say before we leave, we talked about like how much we love Sam Raimi directing this and all the fun and whatever, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we got more of his weird montage dissolves in this
Yeah.
movie, where like a character's face will just be like in the background and then it'll like come into the forefront, and like
Lots of masking.
Lots of masking. It's so weird that he still does this, but I kind of love it. It's the only thing I think that I ironically enjoyed about the movie. Like, pretty much everything else I was just like, yeah, I'm here for it. It's campy. It's fun. I'm legitimately having a good experience. That was the only thing I, like, ironically was like, this fucking guy. And but I had a good laugh about it.
Yeah, I was laughing at it.
Yes.
Which is fine. Like, it was hilarious.
Yes, 100%.
I think he knew that. Well, I know
Maybe it's
he
like his
knows that.
signature.
That's what I think he, like, probably started doing it as, like, a low-budget filmmaker, and now it's just, like...
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's just a
This is
funny
meme,
thing that
let's
he
stick
does.
with this.
Yeah, for sure. But the best example of it, of course, is in Spider-Man 1, when there's a bunch of newspaper clippings about Spider-Man, and then Tobey Maguire just walks into frame like this, and then he just puts his mask on and then turns and walks out of frame. It's great.
A nice visual gag to end the podcast.
That they can't see.
Yeah.
That's okay. Look up the scene. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Thanks again for listening to the Feature Length Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to us if you liked this video or audio. Give us a rating and review if the platform you're listening to us on allows that. If you want to stay up to date with the latest episodes of the podcast, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the bell to be notified when we post a new video, or follow the podcast on Spotify. If you want to connect with us directly, you can follow us on Instagram at featurelengthpodcast, or even send us an email at featurelengthpodcast@gmail.com. Catch you on the flip side.